I have seen all sorts of tragedies in my life, and I have experienced a tragedy myself, but we were in Nováky when the repair plant exploded in Nováky, and I saw how 500-kilogram pieces of concrete were flying, how they scattered over 100 meters. I saw pieces of human bodies, and that was an explosion in a factory. So how does the war look any different? And I will say again what I said on International Women's Day. The smart Alex in the Bratislava cafes will talk about how the war must continue in Ukraine, how it was right that they dragged the Venezuelan president and his wife out of bed, and how it was right that they killed the spiritual leader in Iran. Then they go to Dubai on vacation, and some fighter jet flies over their heads, and they are already crying out that they want to go home. I am afraid because something is suddenly happening here. Peace is not a cliché. It is not a and please, let us maintain this sovereign perspective on events. After all, we are sovereign. We said that the use of Russian military force in Ukraine was a violation of international law. We said it, and we say the same about the case in Venezuela. We said that about Iraq. After all, we eventually withdrew our soldiers from Iraq. We say this about Iran, and we say this about other armed conflicts emerging here. I feel, dear friends, an immense fatigue in the European Union from the military conflict, and that is dangerous when people start getting tired and making mistakes. I believe that apart from the 90 billion, which Ukraine will certainly receive, because even if Viktor Orbán continues to block this loan, I think they will take the route of bilateral loans and countries will conclude agreements with Ukraine. I maintain that these are not loans, these are gifts. Plus, please realize that 60 billion out of the 90 goes towards weapons and 30 billion goes towards the functioning of the state administration itself. I trust that aside from this 90 billion, nobody will get some crazy idea and decide to send soldiers to Ukraine. Whatever it might be called, if a clash ever occurs between soldiers of a NATO member state, even if they are on Ukrainian territory and the Russian Federation, someone's hands might itch to activate Article 5 of the North Atlantic Treaty. Sometimes I ask myself whether someone doesn't happen to have an interest in this, and I repeat here before you, I see with my own eyes many prime ministers who wish for the war in Ukraine to continue, even though it is fruitless. This killing makes no sense. Yes, wars can also be just. If we said that this war is a war that leads to some results, then I would say fine. Sometimes war is necessary. In this case, it is a senseless kill. The only thing we must assert, and in which we are sovereign, is that it must not be repeated. Munich, 1938. Any peace deal that is made must be made with the consent of Ukraine. With the signature of this state, Ukraine must be part of this team. Otherwise, and that is the topic of energy, because if you don't have electricity, you have nothing. You can't make a bullet or a car. You can't make anything, and yet it's something so taken for granted by many people. You turn on the tap in the morning, hot water comes out, you turn on the stove, you simply cook on a gas stove. But that is something that could disappear. In a matter of minutes, look at what the Americans did to Cuba. There, it's a given that there's no water or electricity. Here, it's a given that everything works. In the energy war we are waging, we must sometimes make decisions and take steps that are atypical and tough. I think it was right that we adopted the first reciprocal measure when the oil was stopped, and that is stopping emergency electricity supplies. And we must ask ourselves what we are going to do next. Zelensky will never let the oil through. Never. Our duty is to create pressure, so we will create it. But from the conversation I had with him, which was very strange, It is evident that he has absolutely no interest in oil reaching the territory of Slovakia and Hungary. It looks as though this is all happening, but it is still 2 years away, and for 2 years we have to fight a war for our rights, because we have a right to it, and we need to be very tough, very, very tough. Everyone is looking at Hungary and believing that Viktor Orbán will lose the election. I think that if that happened, then Slovakia must take up the baton, and it will probably be us who will block certain things,